on, breaker one. This is Short Pants Free Radio. Gamers, get your ears on because we're blowing the speakers out.
Grimdark Live. It is time for Grimdark Live. This show is for the nerds, the outcasts, the weirdos.
And for short pants gamers?
No, not you.
Ah, crap.
Get ready, all you Grimdark goons, for dice, dragons, demons, and a dwarf. Only right here on Grimdark Live.
Let's hit the fucking road!
Hey, welcome to Grimdark Live, your weekly webcast for all things Dice, Dragons, Demons, and a Dwarf from the Warhammer worlds. I'm your host, Patrick, and as always, I got Justin, and you know what? Tonight joining us, man, we got him back, man. We got the nice guy in Tabletop Wargaming. We got Randy. Fellas, what do you hear? What do you say?
It's another week of fun. Lots of projects going.
Yeah, we're all busy, man. Randy, talk to us, man. Everybody missed you, man. What's going on?
Oh man, just painting a bunch of corn demons and Slanesh stuff for the first battle report coming out.
That's right, man. We got some of that in the works. We got a lot of stuff happening, man. That you guys are gonna have to stick with us. But
Yeah.
you know, we got a lot of good Grimdark stuff on the way. But here we are, guys, man. We got a show tonight, man. We're gonna be talking Nurgle. But before we say that, welcome to our Grimdark Live show, everybody. I really appreciate everybody here joining us tonight. And if you like our show, please don't forget to give our channel a like or subscribe if you haven't already done so. But all right, gang, let's warm up here, man. We got some disgusting little topics in the show here tonight. We're going to be talking about Nurgle, the Maggotkin of Nurgle, and what we currently have been introduced to, some new battalions and stuff like that out there for the demons, and also we're going to be talking a little bit about what we would like to see and expect, and moving forward, what we think is going to be happening with Nurgle. But also, here's something else that we're going to be doing here with Nurgle. We're going to be talking about how good this damn old-ass 2018 army really is still right now. I mean, Justin, you and I were talking about this before we went live on the show. We're thinking that this army right now is still easily at least 3-2, possibly 4-1 in the right hands, right?
Yep, definitely. They're still a strong book, regardless of how old the book is. It's the general behind it and the list build, and they can knock you into the eternity, man.
Well, that's what we always say, man. We always say the same thing here on the show. It's either the general or the army. And you know what's funny is I got to tell you, I think Nurgle is one of those armies that have stood the test of time and kind of been that perfect balance between both, right? Between the general and the army itself. I mean, this is one of those armies, and I don't want to denigrate it by saying this, but this is one of those armies, that you can almost take out of the box, and it really doesn't matter sometimes if it comes with a gamer or not. You can kind of figure out how to play it. I mean, Randy, what are your thoughts on the old disgusting, puss balls that we love so much?
Yeah, so the one thing I always liked about Nurgle is, they always had some type of offensive power, but they also covered both ends with the defensive, abilities too. So it's kind of like in like 40K where you have the generic Space Marine who has the good armor save and decent ballistic skill. So you could kind of put it on the table and have a nice balance and kind of cover some of your mistakes a little bit or whatever, but then in a really good hands, you can actually see the army shine. Right. Yeah.
That's it. And and we got we got one of the guy in the chats here, man. We got the son of Behemoth, otherwise known as the Iron-Jawed Rat Bastard himself. He just basically said that Nurgle probably coming out later this year. Yeah, we are hoping for it, and I know that a lot of our disgustingly resilient buddies out there are definitely looking for this, especially our disgusting little Sean. We know he's out there right now sitting around staring at his Blight Kings, giggling. We know that he's got something sinister up his sleeve for that one. But you know what's funny, guys? We've seen updates to armies like Disciples of Tzeentch, Hedonites, and now, if you're considering starting a Maggotkin of Nurgle army and thinking about how you should build it, we're here to talk about that. We're here to talk about that, and we're going to be going on to talk about, is there anything that you can do to compete right now with this old ass 2018 book and what to expect later on down the road from this army. So, I mean, we're going to be looking at some army builds. We're going to be looking at some combinations, things like that. But something, guys, regarding the Maggotkin. This is now, and I want to go back and say this, all joking aside, this is now the oldest book in the AOS line. And Justin, I can already see what you're gonna say. I'm not including Legions of Nagash, because that book is already out of here with the Soulblight, Grave Lords coming in. That book might as well be used as a doorstop if you wanted to. It's gone. So that really makes this Nurgle book, this Maggotkin of Nurgle book, this beautiful green booger-colored little bastard right here. That thing is going to be the oldest book right now. I think it's 2018, and we've seen some newer Nurgle topics like the Invidian Plague Host Battalion, and a lot of other pimple topics to pop here that we're going to be talking about. So we've seen some stuff pop up. I think they're hinting right now that that this, with this Invidian Plague Host, this is going to be something like a promissory note that something great is about to happen here with Nurgle. And it wouldn't be Nurgle without grandfather Nurgle spreading all of his love and his pestilence all over the place, giving out all of his gifts. If we didn't talk about some allied units that got pulled into that too, and you may want to keep in mind, I'm going to say this right here, guys, we're going to be talking about this a little bit in the news, is Be'lakor. Right. Now, I know that right now, I think Be'lakor, help me out, guys, Be'lakor's what, 240 points? Anyone in the chats, what's Be'lakor right now? 240 points, something like that?
Somewhere in there, 240, 250.
Well, I know that obviously when he grows up and becomes a big dummy, he's probably going to be more. But I think that as right now, I mean, you put even at an amazing 240 points where he is now, you spend on to lock down your opponent's key unit for a round or two. I mean, that's a great thing for Nurgle, especially the Blight Kings are only moving 4 inches. You need all the help you can get, and Be'lakor can do that. So we're going to be talking about allied units like that tonight, folks. That's what we're going to be getting into at this point. So, guys, you ready to get into some Nurgle topics here later on? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Always.
I stunned them. Did you hear? They're like, oh, we're talking about Nurgle? Oh, nuts.
Nurgle. All right, well, wait. I thought we were talking about...
Not that. That's another topic. All right, here it is, guys.
Another time.
Let's. So here's the proverbial question, man. Talk to me, guys. Are you staying true? You sniff and glue? Randy, nice guy on Tabletop Wargaming. What do we got, man? Make us believers.
All right, so what's on my table is 60 bloodletters, 25 corn dogs, and then some Demonettes of Slanesh. And it's like I said, all going together for a battle report in May. So
cool. I like it. Randy, your stuff is so cool, dude. I'm really looking forward to seeing that stuff out there. Justin, what do you got, man? You sniffing glue, staying true? What do you got?
I'm staying true. I got my entire Armed Forces Day army going. I've got commission paints for other Armed Forces players going. The 2 tables for Armed Forces going. My 90 Days of Dwarves are going. And if that wasn't enough, I'm doing yard work around the house, trying to make my house more valuable.
You got to do that, man. You got to do that because, sometimes adulting gets into this little hobby of ours. You can't sit around and chuck dice and sniff glue all day long. I
wish I could, but I can't. So,
of course, and I've been staying true. I've been working pretty hard with Armed Forces Day, and a lot of folks have really pitched in and helped out. I mean, Justin, you're helping out with the tables, and Randy, you're going to be getting the film stuff going, and you're going to be helping out with that. And we got awesome other guys in the club, Rob out there, and Steve, and other guys that are out there hustling and bustling and getting the tables ready and terrain, and the 40K side with Gary Frank. I mean, I got to tell you, that guy's working harder than an ugly stripper. The stuff that he's pulling together. It really is amazing to see what that guy is accomplishing. And I'm telling you what, I'm really excited to see 40K and what that's going to be for this tournament this year. But I gotta make a point here because I want to make sure that we address this for the Armed Forces Day tournament itself. We got to this would be a great topic to bring up because it is Nurgle, right? And we got to talk about Nurgle's chief henchman here, Colonel COVID. And it looks like I want to make this point. The tournament is going to be following all of the protocols for COVID as set by the facility, which is going to be the VFD or the VFD, the VFW, the city of Lockport and the county and the state. Tables are going to be measured beforehand, and social distancing requirements will be adhered to for the current state regulations. Now, remember, the tournament is going to be in June, so quite possibly there's going to be a lot of vaccinated folks walking around rolling dice at that time. There will be masks required, hand sanitizer, and temperatures are going to be taken on all of our competitors that are going to be coming into play. So I want you to know that we are taking the proper measures to make sure that this is a compliant and safe tournament. Of course, you got to remember this though, folks. If you're playing on a 6x4 table, you're not going to be 6 feet away from your opponent. You're going to be 4 feet away from your opponent. So it's going to be some simple responsibility on yourself as well. So keep that in mind. And here's something else I want to say real quick. If you or your loved ones have any type of comorbidity, don't go. If you have any aspirations or any type of concerns or whatever, don't go. You're adults. Take some responsibility for yourself, and you know what. And we've got another couple of weeks. And if it's something that you if you're paid up and you don't feel like you want to attend because you have some concerns, no problem. Refund, no questions asked. So I want to put that out there that we are taking proper measures for the current Nurgle condition that we're all in on COVID. So just keep that in mind. That's what I have. And you know what? And by the way, guys, we are looking at an awesome tournament. We've got a lot of stuff already set up. And you know what? We're already planning on next year. Growth is looking to be pretty tremendous. And I think that we are going to this is going to be a record tournament for us. And I'm really, really excited for it. So, guys, anything else on the staying true or sniffing glue end of things?
Just a lot of work.
You know what? It's a labor of love, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is.
Cool.
I mean, it wouldn't be our hobby and our fun time if it wasn't. So
that's exactly right, man. That's exactly right. Randy, what do you think, man? Anything?
I just can't wait to get my fingers stuck together again.
Well, you know what? Hey, you know what? You can't work that hard without a reward.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Randy, the nicest guy in tabletop wargaming.
6 Squared Studios.
All right, I got us on.
Squared Studios are the real terrain nerds you all need to be getting your terrain from. Get your commercial laser-cut MDF bases, silicone molds for resin prints, game and hobby accessories like 15 to 28 millimeter terrain, 15 to 28 millimeter figures, and 15 to 28 millimeter vehicles, and a lot more. Get your nerd on with 6 Squared Studios. Check them out at 6squaredstudios.ca. Again, that's 6squaredstudios.ca. 6 Squared Studios.
Hey gang, today's news is brought to you by 6 Squared Studios. Yep, an awesome company for all your gaming and hobby needs. 6 Squared Studios. I'll say it again, 6 Squared Studios. So get your nerd on with 6 Squared Studios. Check them out at 6squaredstudios.ca. Again, that's 6-squaredstudios.ca. 6 Squared Studios, where tabletop terrain is made by gamers for gamers. Just like their saying goes. Gaming accessories made by gamers for gamers. 6 Squared Studios.
6 Squared Studios. Tabletop terrain by expert nerds for exceptional nerds.
The news, extra, read all about it, man. Actually, watch all about it. Here we go. We got the news coming up here on Grimdark Live. But before we get started with the news, I want to throw this out there, man. We got the question of the day coming up here, and we want to make sure that you guys can get a listen full of it, so that when we go to ask it later on here in the show, you guys get your answers ready. But don't answer it now, because if you haven't noticed, our buddy Chuck isn't with us today, and that's because he tried to answer the question, and Randy wasn't always the nicest guy in tabletop wargaming with what he had to do with him. So, you got to think about this. Think about what happens. Chuck is out there somewhere. Randy, you're going to tell him what you did with him?
No. That's for people to find out later.
That's right. So folks, you don't want to answer this early, because Randy can sometimes step out of character. But here it is, man. Here is the here is the question of the day. So this is gonna be for later in the show. So here it is. Can a player be so content with an army that they don't want to play any other army? So there it is, man. That's the question of the day that's going to be coming up later on here on Grimdark Live. So we got the news, and so I wanted to start the day here with what we got to start it with, man. We got the rumor engine. So here it is. Now, this is definitely, to me, this sucker is definitely going to be something 40K. It's got to be. I mean, what is it? Who knows? It's an orc hand with some type of communicator in it, or is it a Gene Stealer cultist? I mean, I think when I look at it, I'm looking at the wrist, those little, like, amphibian gill-looking things in the wrist there. I mean, to me, that's 100% Gene Stealer cult. But what do you think, Justin? You're chomping at the bit, man. What do you got?
It's Gene Stealer cult. That's a detonator or something in his hand, and you got the claws which looks like there's 5 of them there. The normal ridge and everything else, the mutated arm. There's no denying that's Genestealer Cult.
Yeah.
It's too much of a giveaway. We just don't know what the model's gonna do.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely gonna call somebody. That's a radio, or maybe one of those old cell phones.
Or it's gonna blow something up. Considering that looks like a dead.
Oh yeah, switch, it could be a detonator, right? Yeah, good point. So
these could be suicide cultists, running forward and pop a button and boom, finger on the trigger.
There you go. It could be one of those. Randy, man, do you agree, or what do you think, man? What the heck is that rumor engine?
Yeah, it's mostly insects.
Oh, so you think that is Genestealer Cults?
Yeah, it's gonna be Genestealer Cult, and then I would think there's been a few other insect things in the hive stuff, but
so some type of hybrid of that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. For a while there, we were kind of riding high on the gravy train with all the Soul Blight and maybe some of the Curse City little hints that they were giving us, and it's kind of interesting to see 40K kind of back in the mix. For a while there we got spoiled. We forgot that 40K was actually a game. So
it was like 2 months solid of either Curse City or AOS or something to do with the fantasy side, and then maybe a little sprinkling in there here and there, but there was nothing. It was like 40K flatline for a while.
Just a little schmackling. But speaking of a big bastard that you can use in either game, here it is, man. We got Saturday. We got Be'lakor that's going to be coming in.
Right.
So here it is. This Saturday, Broken Realms, Be'lakor. Looks like that's going to be ready for everybody to, I guess, get in their sweaty palms, right? Or is it going to be pre-order? This is actually going to be for everyone to get in their sweaty palms.
Yeah, so, I think he's just hitting the shelves direct.
Right.
Which is weird because we just got the Techless book and the Be'lakor book is coming pretty much right back to back with it.
Yeah, and let me say something about that one. I really hope that this story is going to spice up the chaos side, on the fluff side. Right now, opposed to the the chaos, I guess, situation, and what's happening there. I mean, right now, everyone in the chaos side is what I'm trying to say follows Archaon obediently. And we know that there's a lot of animosity between Be'lakor and Archaon. That goes back all the way to damn near the storyline in 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battles. So we're talking something in the early 90s that this has been going on. So when you think about it, even in comparison, Order has a lot more chaos in it than Chaos. So I like the way that Chaos is kind of shaping up as a little bit more of a streamlined Grand Alliance. But I also like that they're starting to present Be'lakor as kind of losing his patience here a little bit. He wants to go back and be the Ever-Chosen, and I think that's going to spice things up as far as the storyline. Because I'll tell you what, and I know we got in a little bit of trouble for breaking this a little early on a show a couple of shows ago, but this storyline for Broken Realms has really taken off. I mean, if you look at the last storyline when you got Techless beating the shit out of Nagash, I'm going to tell you right now that makes for great reading. That's good stuff. And so I think what we have here with this story arc is even better in a way, because it's your two bad guys, the baddest of the baddies, and they're going to square off because Be'lakor's got something to prove.
Yep. That's definitely where this book is going and the story arc is going, because they've touched on a lot of the Order side, a little bit of the destruction, but Chaos has kind of been left in the lurch in a lot of the story.
Yeah.
Except for, of course, Marathi, where we got Slaanesh coming back at us full force.
It's funny because I like how, I don't want to say that this is necessarily part of the Broken Realms, but you kind of touched on something. I don't know that they've been kind of left in the lurch, but there was kind of like a long bridge between them, because really, in my opinion, the Broken Realms thing kind of started with the Wrath of the Ever-Chosen storyline, right about the time that we were getting the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and you kind of saw Archaon Triumphant come in, and I kind of saw that was kind of a good, and I don't think that it was meant to be that way, but that's just kind of the way that I have it in my brain. So I'm really looking forward to this book, and honestly, and we're going to talk about this here in a little bit when we get into Maggotkin of Nurgle, but already Be'lakor in a Nurgle army is going to be
be great,
and I'm really really excited to see what he's going to be in really any chaos faction, I think. But I'm interested to see where the storyline goes. But here's another guy we can't ignore either, man. We got Lord Croak, and this image right here, this thing broke, and I got to tell you it's absolutely amazing. And here's what's funny. I'm going to be totally kind of belligerent here in some of my comments, but I'm really not interested in about 90% of the Seraphon minis, if you want to know the truth. I'm really not. And I think that's a lot of the reason why you don't see a lot of that army on the table. Plus the fact that it's probably a pretty expensive army to field. But I'm not really interested in about 90% of the Seraphon minis. But this one is absolutely on another level. I mean, GW meaning they really knocked this thing out of the park. I mean, gang, 2 cents in a tin can on this sucker. What do you think about this Lord Croak?
Yeah, so my 2 favorite armies that I love playing is a mixed demon army, which is usually led by Belcor, and then my Seraphon have been in the opposite of my Bretonnians in the original box set since the beginning, and I just love both factions, and this book is going to be awesome for me personally. So
yeah. You know what? I forgot about that, Randy. I forgot about that. Yeah. You do for a while there. You played Seraphon like crazy there for a while.
Yeah, and then. Yeah, I saw some of the battalion boxes coming out for this next book or whatever, and one of them has a bunch of giant dinosaurs in it, so it's just right up my alley. So
big stuff. So let me ask you this: King Kong versus Godzilla. You're rooting for Godzilla, weren't you?
Actually, I'm a King Kong guy. Unfortunately, when it comes to kaiju. So
there you go. All right. Yeah. Justin, what are your thoughts, man, on old Croak?
This model is absolutely gorgeous and fantastic. I was stunned when I saw it.
Stunned.
We knew there was going to be a big void of magic when Nagash got his ass capped, basically.
Yeah.
And them just sitting there and capitalizing on it and saying, okay, well, hey, Nagash is gone. Here's the strongest mage in the realm next to Teclis, basically, maybe even stronger. In all honesty, he's actually stronger, in my opinion.
You mean Croak?
Well, Croak, yeah, he's much stronger than Teclis is. And the model is just huge. I mean, our group somebody put a comparison poster or picture up of the old Croak model versus the new one, and the base size is different. The model is just almost double the size, and just the fact that this is just replacing Croak and not a standardized Slan is kind of scary in a way, because you're still going to have a Slan model on that smaller base,
right?
Versus him with multiple headdresses.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. And you know what? So do we know yet, Randy or Justin, when does this sucker drop? Or pre-order? When is it pre-order this Saturday? Or when does this thing drop?
I don't know if it's pre-order this Saturday unless he's in the Pellicor book, and then he is.
He is in the book.
Okay.
Spiky Bits had a thing of the prices and whatever, but I'm not sure if it was this weekend or next.
Yeah. I kind of came across this a little bit late and want to throw this up there to talk about it. So we'll definitely have more information as we know it. All right, cool.
Well, then you're going to have your big standoff right there. You'll have a new Seraphon battalion coming in Bellicor, and you'll have a demon or demon-esque based thing with Bellicor and the other side of it. And
so what I saw, there's a Nighthawk Battalion box with the new guy that they showed in the
the jailer or whatever,
the jailer guy. Yeah, there was a Bastiladon, Stegodon, and a War Chief on Stegodon battalion box coming out for the Seraphon. Yeah, which is why I said right up my alley of big dinosaurs. If you remember what I played at Armed Forces Day, it was literally a Thunder Lizards.
That's it. Yeah, I do remember that.
But then they had a couple other factions, but they had a KO faction, like a little battalion. Like I said, I found all this information probably about a couple hours ago on Spiky Bits. So.
Awesome.
Well, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
What I mean, and that's the thing I like about the Broken Realm books in general is, we're getting them pretty quick, but they're not taking the same factions from book to book to book to book, because they're hitting every faction's getting something, just depending on what book they're actually dumped into.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, the only one that's getting multiple so far is the Cities of Sigmar, which has had 3, I think, already, which is ridiculous.
Yep. So Well, we're going to have to, keep our eyes out for when Croak actually drops. But here's what we do know is dropping. And, lately Grimdark Live has been giving you a lot of information behind the scenes, behind the curtain kind of looks. And we do know that this is coming out. So if you happen to hear our breaking news from this past Saturday, Grimdark Live broke first that we were going to be getting a Hobgoblin-esque type of army in the Indominus-style release box for AOS 3.0. And our very reliable source has confirmed that this will be the new Destruction Army in the box set, taking on the Stormcast in, again, that released Indominus-style box set for Age of Sigmar 3.0. And, when we say Hobgoblin-esque, because that's what our source told us, does this mean they're going to have the Hobgoblin keyword? Possibly. Does this mean we're going to be possibly getting back some of the awesome, Gitmob-type grots? Boy, I hope so. I really do. I mean, that would explain why these awesome-looking, Mongolian-looking, wolf riders really haven't been brought into any other army like, say, Gloomspite Gits or anybody like that. I mean, we thought for a while there was a rumor that, this wasn't a vetted rumor. This was just us talking that when Sons of Behemoth were first coming out, remember everyone was saying, oh, maybe this is going to be their chaff unit or something like that. But I think we're pleasantly surprised. Right. Was it the pirate, grots? No. Was it the bug people, the silent people? No. But I'm pretty happy with this thing because there's hope here that we're going to get things back like and of course when we're talking about the potentiality of what this new Destruction Army is, maybe they're going to be Hobgoblin-esque type Gitmob grots. So that maybe we're going to see the nasty skulkers come back. Maybe we're going to we know that we're getting the wolf riders. Maybe we're getting the wolf chariot riders back. Maybe we got snotling pump wagons. We got snotlings. Maybe we're going to see those suckers again. The grot spear chuckas. What else were there? Oh, the Doomdiver catapult. That was another one.
Catapult, yeah.
And the rock lobber. So I really hope that this turns out to be something because I think that's a little bit of the nostalgia meets enthusiasm in a new army that I think would usher in 3.0 rather nicely. But yeah, so that's what we do know, folks. That again, it's going to be a Hobgoblin-esque type of army that's going to be in the Indominus style release box set for Age of Sigmar 3.0. And I want to clear something up. Somebody actually asked me, are they calling it the Indominus bot? No, they're not. We're pirating that term from 40K because that's the closest thing we can utilize to explain that, because there's going to be the advanced copy of the rule book in there. There's going to be terrain, just like what they did for the Necrons and the Primera Space Marines in the 40K Indominus box. So what do you guys think, man? Are we ready to hopefully get some more Hobgoblin Gitmob back?
I'm ready for goblins in any form. Hobgoblin, Gitmob, whatever they come back. I mean, we need the large scale horde army with either, a billion wolf riders coming across the table with chariots and catapults. I mean, that would be fantastic just to see, your battle line being these wolf riders that are 20, 30 man block of just wolves just tearing across the table at 14-inch movement. And, that with bows or whatever would be awesome.
That would be a great thing. I mean, Randy, what are your thoughts, dude? Hobgoblin, Gitmob.
Pump wagons and I'm in.
You and the pump wagons. Yeah, you know what? That definitely would be some awesome stuff. What do you think, guys? I think that might wrap it up for the news. Anything else you guys have for the news?
I didn't really see anything else that caught my eye this week.
Right.
I mean, Croak and everything else was the big bread and butter of the news.
For my take one videos, I'm just gonna put it out there. It's gonna be a couple weeks for the orc on boar. I've been having to deal with some stuff at home, so it's coming out. And then as I mentioned earlier, I'm doing all the painting for the miniatures and stuff for the first battle report. So it'll be a pretty quick back-to-back video. I think just
cool.
It just been delayed because of stuff at home. So.
We totally understand that, man. But all right, myself and my couple of nurglings here, we're going to be right back to talk about the Maggotkin.
A public service announcement brought to you by Frag Factory 3D Printing. Many of us have thousands of dollars in miniatures, yet we play on flat tables with books and overturned Tupperware to act as our fantasy and sci-fi landscapes. We've all drooled over the tables we see in magazines lush with beautifully created terrain from all genres. The crew at Frag Factory 3D Printing want to wipe that drool from your chin and put it firmly on your friends and fellow gamers when they see your setup. Alien landscapes, desert wastelands, futuristic cities, fantasy outposts, elven forests, demonic stronghold, and so much more. Find out what you've been missing by checking us out on Facebook at Frag Factory 3D Printing, or send us an email at fragfactory3dprinting@gmail.com. Bring your own files, or we will help you find what you've been searching for. Take your gaming to the next level with Frag Factory 3D Printing. We print life into your games. Tell them Grimdark Live sent you, and your first hour of printing is free. Hey gang, in all seriousness, get your terrain on the table and get it with Frag Factory 3D Printing. And remember, tell them Grimdark Live sent you, and they'll give you 1 hour free. You can get them via email at fragfactory3dprinting@gmail.com or their Facebook page, Frag Factory 3D Printing. Frag Factory 3D Printing, printing life into your games. Now, back to the show.
Did you guys know that Randy's name in college was actually Sloppity Bilepiper? I mean, that's how often he was doing keg stands, and he was well known at college as Sloppity Bilepiper. Randy, you want to tell that story about how you were once known as Sloppity Bilepiper? All right.
Yeah, I don't want to turn the audience green, so I think we should continue on. So.
That's it. Well, folks, we are definitely here to talk about Sloppity Bilepiper, Nurgle, the Maggotkin, and yeah, guys, I've been actually looking forward to this topic since we really kind of started planning this one a while back, but they do have the greatest name. I mean, Nurgle they have to have the greatest name of Epidemus, and I mean they have the greatest names of any faction I think in the game, right?
Yeah,
I would think so.
I would say so.
So here's what we got, gang. Being that they're currently the oldest army in the game. Battletome, as we said earlier in the show from 2018, the Maggotkin of Nurgle may seem neglected. I think I've heard on different boards and kind of reading things, but they really do still stand the test of time as an army, and I believe that they're going to go 4-1, or even 3-2 with an inexperienced player, but 4-1 definitely in any given tournament. And I really believe that because, as I said kind of in the beginning of the show, this is an army that is both the General's army and the army out of the box. The Maggotkin really have had also in recent times, I would say, a little life. Isn't that ironic to say that about Nurgle? Life breathed into them since the release of the 2020 General's Handbook. There's been several key reductions since then in point reductions. What I think has really kept them viable to date. So, gang, let's talk about the army as it stands right now, because I think that's really going to be where we want to really look at Nurgle at this point, and Maggotkin more concisely. But let's look at the army where it stands now, and let's stick with units that have benefited from this points reduction. And obviously, the first thing that comes to mind are the Blight Kings. And the reason why this is a big deal is the Blight Kings have so many wounds per model. I mean, being that I think they're down to, they're 140 points for 21 wounds. That's really something 4 like wounds per model. The champion gets a +1, and on a 4+ save, that's really solid. Now, right. That means you can have over 180 wounds for roughly 1,260 or some points or something like that off the top of my head. And that's just your battle line, folks. That's just your battle line. So, I mean, let that sink in. Blight Kings, Maggotkin of Nurgle, right now. That's your battle line. And this really leaves you with 700 more points if you went with all Blight King list for heroes or for whatever else you may want in your army. So, really a very strong standpoint from that army right out of the box. So it's kind of easy to see, and again, we're going to get into this of why I firmly believe that in the right hands, of course, the General, I think you can definitely go 4-1 in today's game with this. I mean, but gang, what do you guys think so far? I mean, Blight Kings and Maggotkin of Nurgle as they stand right now.
You got 4 wounds per model at, like you said, 140 points for five models,
right?
In your battle line sitting at 180 wounds, whatever. The only downside on them is that they're slow, but you can fix that so easily with one endless spell,
or a character,
or a character, and the speed becomes irrelevant at that point, and you just got this wave of just pestilent fatness coming across at you that's just gonna eat you or tie you down or lock you up. I mean, you put these guys on an objective and they're not going anywhere
No,
especially with everything in place.
And that's something I want to bring up because you brought up a good point
battle
there.
line.
Yeah, well, and but their battle line, and this is something I want to bring up, and then Randy, I want to get your kind of point on this bounced off. But I mean, here's what it is. Speaking of Blight Kings, if you take a whole bunch of them, as many as you feel like painting, I guess. Follow this up with at least one of each of their support heroes. Gutrot Spoon would be my personal favorite. Harbinger of Decay, I like him, but sometimes that 4+ ward save is a little too situational. Lord of Blights is another good one. Lord of Plagues is, that's okay. But you don't necessarily use them every single time, but some are required for certain battalions. Now, Gutrot gives you the outflank capability, Justin, that you were kind of talking about as far as working up their speed. But he gives you the outflank capabilities. The Harbinger, of course, gives you that feel no pain bubble. And what I like about this book, one of the things I'm going to be kind of sad about to see it kind of go is the fact that right now everything is within. Not wholly within. So you're dealing with this whole book. This whole book right here is still, everything is still listed as within 7, within 14, and within 21, and not wholly within. And I really, really still like that. And I think that's what's helping this army do so well.
They're still the kings of the daisy chain.
Yeah. But I mean, Randy, what are your thoughts on this one so far? As Nurgle as it stands right now, with let's just stick with the mortals.
Yes, so stick with the mortals. So you mentioned Blight Kings, they're fantastic. If you're taking more than 2 units of them, like a small, I've seen units of 5, like either 2 units of 10 plus like another battle line, either Marauders or basically, I think Marauders from Mortal side.
Now you're talking about mixing in Slaves of Darkness, and we are going to get that. We are going to get to that here in a little bit because
but then, like I said, then if you go all Blight Kings, like more than 3 units or whatever, one of the best things to do is take the battalion and give them render like -1 across the board or whatever.
Yeah, you can,
and that makes them even more fantastic.
Yeah,
and then it allows you to have a lesser drops and get more get more out of your money basically.
Heck yeah, and that's really the thing. I mean, board coverage and drops I think are key to this. But let's keep this going here. Building around these Blight Kings, because one of the things that I really really enjoy is taking a great unclean one. And I know that the other thing that I like, and I love the model so much, is the Glotkin. And I know that a lot of times people are kind of poo-pooing on the Glotkin, but I think it really is your taste at that present time. But let's stick with this. So we got the great unclean one, we got the Glotkin, and I think they're sitting at right around like 320 points or something like that. So if you have some, if you have a great unclean one, let's just start there. I mean, I think that's going to be a pretty darn good behemoth or monster to work with. I mean, the great unclean one is really good for casting and speed. There you go, Justin. Speed.
Yep.
For your army, if you take the bell.
That bell is fantastic.
Yeah.
And he has access to the endless spell cogs on top of that.
Well, so now you can have a lot going on. But I want to kind of put a little bit of defense out there for the Glotkin. And I get it. There isn't a lot of defense for the Glotkin. I get it. But let me have my moment here.
That's just because he's a monstrous creature, and monsters are in a bad place right now.
Let me have my moment here and defend the Glotkin a little bit. Here's the thing why I think the Glotkin has a place if you want to play more casual type of game. The casualty for your opponent. The Glotkin can give you that +1 to wound and +1 to attack through his command abilities and spells. So that right there is worth something. I mean, you could do that Glotkin bubble thing. You just bubble wrap him and you move him around the board like a lawnmower. That's hysterical. That's a lot of fun to do. But here's the thing. Let's go back to what I said earlier about this army. If you combine these point drops for the Maggotkin battle line and the great unclean one, all right, it's easy to see what people have been doing and having success again with this, what's the one called? The Thricefold. That's what it is. The Thricefold Befoulment Battalion, which this thing runs 3 great unclean ones. Randy, you and I were just talking about this not too long ago. And you can really run these great unclean ones in any flavor. Named, exalted, generic. You can pretty much do whatever the heck you want. But I mean, what I think is great about this Thricefold Befoulment, it buffs their innate spell, which is Plague Wind, for more damage and healing, as long as they're hanging out near each other and on the table and all that other great stuff. But I think that a lot of times I've seen recently with Nurgle armies, they've kind of gotten away from using that battalion, and I think that's a hidden gem that's still alive and well in the Maggotkin of Nurgle book. Right?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, I always like playing the lot of 3 monsters. So, yeah. So
yeah. That's kind of your thing. But sticking with the Great Unclean One, I mean, here's the thing, and I want to kind of talk about this thricefold befoulment here, because if you grab 3 of these, it's not only perfectly viable still, but it's a legitimate strategy. And I kind of want to throw that out there, because the Exalted one from even the the Forge World, right? That's still a pretty cool option too, if you wish. The one where he's like licking he's like butter knife licking the sword or whatever that is. That thing's pretty cool. He's a little tankier. Might hit a little harder, but I think he can take relics and command traits and all that. So not so bad. But if you choose to go this route, then you can either go Plague Bearer Battle Line or Blight Kings. And it's most likely just a personal preference. I think I would go Blight Kings just because I kind of like the mortals, but we do have some pretty exciting stuff just recently revealed for the Plague Bears. But I mean, Justin, what are your thoughts? I mean, you've played against them quite a bit. I don't think you're much of a Nurgle guy really, but you've played against Nurgle quite a bit.
I'm not a Nurgle guy per se. I mean, I don't know the aesthetic out of the army itself. It's kind of my version of the Lumineth in a way, or your version of the Lumineth, I should say. But
sure,
playing them, I don't.
So yeah, I think sometimes it's a little bit of personal preference there. But so now let's kind of move the needle here a little bit and talk a little bit about what we do know, and that's this new Invidian Plague Host that's coming in, that's going to give the Plague Bearers a little bit of love. Some of the demons of Nurgle have been getting recently in this Invidian Plague Host Battalion. This of course is from the Broken Realms Teclis storyline. Randy, you're familiar with this one, right?
Yeah, the Plague Host and I didn't really read too much of the storyline yet. So.
Right. Right. So, I mean, but what we do know about the Invidian Plague Host here is that this thing, first of all, this introduces some new named Nurgle character. I think it's Gordle Pulpskull, and this is the AKA the Sloppity Bilepiper model, which is absolutely hysterical. Probably my favorite name in the entire Nurgle list is Sloppity Bilepiper. So with GW releasing this War Scroll Battalion in a box set, this set provides Plague Bearers led by their demonic support heroes, which again is Sloppity Bilepiper, which is a Herald of Nurgle, and the Spoil Pox Scrivener. That's to do with the big mouth that's always yelling at everybody, and he's also another Herald of Nurgle. So I think that this is kind of a good look ahead of what's going to be happening with the Nurgle army to come. I mean, Justin, you've been you were saying something there before. I think you dropped out on us, but
apparently my internet doesn't like me bad mouthing Nurgle.
See, you gotta
be careful. Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this battalion that came in with the Teclis with the
Broken Realms book, yeah, Teclis.
Yeah. One, it's a great buy, because it's a great starting point for how many models are in the box for that little sub battle battalion that it is. It's a 1-drop, and you get some pretty good advantages off of having Mr. Sloppity and Spoilpox running around with you.
Sure.
So
sure.
I almost wonder with one of the abilities that they have just from the battalion and from Sloppity, where you're adding a +2 to bravery.
Right.
If that's a hint as that there's going to be a rework with bravery in 3.0.
Yeah,
because why do you need a demon with a 12 bravery?
Well, I mean, I guess because you don't want them to run ever in the history of never running on Battle Shock ever. That's why.
Right, but we've had that discussion openly about how bravery and Battle Shock in general is kind of a joke engine right now, just simply because there's so many ways to usurp it. Basically, This is giving demons that are already a 10 a 12, so you have to eliminate 12 models out of a unit to make the roll count.
Right. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It is. And something, it's funny because
it almost makes 3.0 we're going to see a change in that system.
Right. I mean, Plague Bearers, for the most part, and really for most Nurgle players, are the first unit that they're going to put in any of their lists. And I know that that the list I'm working on, I'm building, I know that that's exactly what I'm doing. They're a solid battle line unit, and that is pretty darn durable, I guess.
Right.
But it's not really particularly offensive. They're kind of pillow-fisted, but they're really great at holding objectives, man. Honestly, and Plague Bearers are really good at holding objectives thanks to their built-in -1 to hit in combat in units of but also too in units of 20 or more. Their disgustingly resilient rule I'm sorry, they get another -1 to hit, but then their disgustingly resilient, which is a 5+ ward save, makes them even better. I know that I've seen them mostly used as screening units because they can really stop up the middle of the field if enemy units are trying to bear down on an objective or another critical unit. And yeah, they're not very fast, but they are more suited to hold objectives in your territory depending on your army build. So I think that definitely the Plague Bearers now, and you can kind of see the way the trend is going, because look at what the Hedonites of Slaanesh did. For a long time, they were a demon-imbued army, and the Mortals were kind of an afterthought. Well, look what they've done now, and the Mortals have kind of kicked it up a notch. I think what Nurgle is doing for a long time with the Maggotkin, hence the name Maggotkin, Rotbringers, they really focused in on the Mortals in that storyline. And I think what we're seeing now is kind of a trend back towards the Plague Bearers, which is I think is great, because that's going to feed into I think to seeing a lot more great unclean ones and everything else, more full demon units on the table, and we haven't seen that in a long time. I would say not since like 8th edition. I would say, right?
Yeah.
So
true. Very true.
But speaking of that, let's stick with the great unclean one here. We just kind of talked about this big bloated bastard a few seconds ago. He works really, really well with Plague Bearers. His command ability is just a +1 attack on a demon unit, so it gives them a bit more of a punch. Because we said before, Plague Bearers can kind of be feather-fisted. He's also a demon hero, so as long as he's within, remember, not wholly within, but within 7 inches, he's going to give them all rerolls of a 1. But it's the Doomsday Bell that really helps. And Randy, you were kind of pontificating on this one, and I can't agree with you more. I mean, this is a cool piece of kit, objective, bell, whatever it is, that gives Nurgle units within 7 inches a +3 move, almost doubling their speed. So
yeah, going from the magic number 7, whatever, and then plus the trees that allow you to run and charge, and you're doing fantastic.
Yep.
So.
Yep, the one, and yeah, as Sean said, if you roll a 1d6, if you roll a 1, d6 of them come back. That's in the battle shock phase, right?
Yeah, it's the battle shock. When they roll 1 for battle shock, all the guys come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's really the secret sauce with Plague Bearers. I mean, if you get Plague Bearers where they need to be, they are really hard to shift, and these two heroes, we talk about the Great Unclean One and even the Glotkin. I'm going to go back when I say these two heroes. They can really help solidify that base of that army and kind of keep them there. I kind of want to go back to a mortal hero that just kind of popped in my brain here. Unless you guys have something else to say on the Plague Bearers or the demons in general. All right, can I roll on with this one? Or you guys got something to say?
How many attacks does a Plague Bearer have baseline? Is it 1?
I think they just have 1 attack.
Or 2. Okay. So within 7 inches of the Great Unclean One, they add an attack, so that's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Within 14 inches of Sloppity and one of his abilities, that makes him 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then striking against a unit that Spoilpox has chosen as the count unit,
right?
4.
Right.
Yep.
So they have 4 attacks per model on a 20-man unit with those 3 heroes
and
around.
And don't forget, on a 6, it's a mortal wound.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's 80 attacks coming off of a 25mm based demon that you're going to get almost everything in.
Yeah. Now, granted, they're a 1-inch reach. So with a good pile in, you could have a. I mean, already there. That's really a good buff.
Right.
To what they're
Plague Bears are 32 millimeter, so they don't.
Oh, the 32.
Okay.
Yeah, reach
that's
over.
right. I was
going
that's right.
Yeah, only demonettes are still on the 25s. All the other 3s are 32s now. So
right, but you're still gonna get out of a 20-man unit. You're gonna get 4 attacks per. You're gonna get a minimum 10 to 15 models into anything you attack.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting 60 attacks at a given throw.
Right.
Yeah.
6 is turned into mortals.
Right.
Yeah, I've been practicing against a certain someone's Nurgle list, and he has a good solid unit of 30 plus Blight Kings is the other battle line. So
right.
Well, I got to tell you, I think that there's a lot of good things coming down for the for this army. I think that this, like I said, this whole new battalion and what they're doing for the demons, I think this is just kind of a peek behind the curtain of what's going to be coming up for Nurgle or Maggotkin or whatever they're going to call themselves come 3.0. But I want to throw in another character that I think that can actually be pretty darn good, in and around some Plague Bears, and that's the Lord of Blights. Because even if you were to throw him in there with Plague Bears or obviously Blight Kings, Lord of Blights, his command ability basically doubles the bonus of the Cloud of Flies, making units of, say, 20 plus -2 to hit in combat. Now, here's the thing. If you get this off, they're not going to die. I just want to, the range of this ability is 21 inches, and it's not wholly within. I want to keep pointing that out. Like, I really love that about this book, that they don't have that wholly within. It's just simply within. So you can conga line that unit. So he doesn't even need to be near the unit. So the Lord of Blights really can do wonders with that command ability, and he can just be conga lined to them. Within 21 inches. So I think that that what we're seeing so far, as far as behind the curtain on these Plague Bears, is pretty great. But let's kind of stick with the War Scroll, because Justin, I want to kind of segue to that for a second, because since you brought up their attacks for the Plague Bears, just baseline. Let's take away the special battalion here. It really is great and really captures what Plague Bears are. Plague Bears, let's just say what they are baseline right now. They're slow, they're resilient, they're defensive. So to start, they move 4 inches, which is not very quick, though there are ways to buff them, right? I guess is the best way to put it, which we can explain later, and you can rehash for what this battalion does. And they have a 5+ save as standard, which is average, but it's a disgustingly resilient save, and that's technically a 5++, 5x5, because they got a 5+ baseline save plus a 5+ feel no pain. And it really does help them. However, you still gotta position them, right? But you can get them into cover now, and now they literally have a 4+ save, which
by 5+.
Yep. Yeah, thanks to that, if you put a demon hero nearby, they're going to get in a built-in Mystic freaking shield for free. Reroll saves of 1. So right. Their bravery is already a 10. Which is awesome, and with this battalion could be a 12. So you very rarely spend command points on inspiring them. So they might be one of the better straight battle line, not battle line but straight battle line units in the game. But real quick, Justin, kind of rehash what this new battalion is going to be giving them, just real quick, high level.
The
Invidian Plagueis, yeah.
The Invidian. Okay, so it's Bilepiper, Smallpox, and 2 units of Plague Bearers, and then they get if a unit first time a unit is destroyed, they replace 10 models straight to the board. It's 9 inches away, 6 inches away from the board edge. The standard reinforcement tactic, and then they have the Rude Limerick,
standard.
Which is
that's awesome.
Well, no. I'm saying standard tactic for how they deploy a summoned unit or a secondary unit.
Sure.
9 inches away, 6 inches from a board edge, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then the Rude Limerick, which is adding 1 to their bravery for the use of a command point. Right. Wholly within 14 of a hero, which you're always going to have Sloppity there, or you're going to have Spoilix there. So you're going to have a hero standing next to him to make them that Battle Shock 12. If I was building a list, I'd take 2 of these battalions, in all honesty.
Yeah, they're 120 points apiece.
Yeah, I'd take 2 of them and max out the Plague Bearers in the units, so you have 2 20s or 2 30s or whatever they happen to be with Spoilix and Sloppity, and take 2 of them, and then 2 greater demons, and probably a bunch of.
Sean chimed in and stuff, and he said the subfaction in the Wrath of Chaos, if it's all Nurgle demons for Maggotkin, it says the subfaction gives enemy units within 3 inches -1 to their rend.
Yep, and Sean, we are going to be talking about that one here, my friend. You brought up a great one. You're absolutely right. And that's coming up.
If you're going all demons, that's fantastic.
I'm just saying, if I was doing an all demon list, I would take 2 of these, because it covers all your battle line, and it covers a good chunk of your heroes that make them solid. And then, like you're saying, the greater demons in there, taking 2 of them just to filter in and heal them as they're walking forward, or putting them or tar pitting the living hell out of an objective with this unit.
Right.
This
so
battalion.
let's go back to something else that's kind of an innate great thing about these plague bears here. And I know we're kind of stretching the taffy on these plague bears, but they deserve it. I want to touch on the command group for this unit, because what I'm trying to emphasize here is we're kind of talking about all these ancillary things that make this unit great, right? This battalion here, this book there, but we really got to look at what plague bears are as the unit. I mean, their command group for these guys is pretty interesting. As the champion has a +1 attack, which is standard but still good. The Piper makes the enemy unit within 6 inches reroll battle shock tests of a 1, which is great. And I mean, think about it. This is pretty great against other demon units. Let's throw that out there. And the best is easily the Icon, which when you roll a 1 for battle shock tests, instead of losing models, this is what Sean was bringing up here in the chats, you're going to get D6 models back. Right. So, and you think about this, if you couple this with that battalion, where even if you lose a battalion, you get 10 more, or lose the unit, 10 more pop back. I mean, this is really where I think this army is going to really be back on the board. When Maggotkin first came out in 2018, they had these kind of shenanigans, the staying power, this resiliency that no one in the game knew how to deal with at all. And this is why I want to go back to this. I mean, their attacks are not great. All right, I get it. Right now, baseline only 1 attack that hits on a 4+ and wounds on a 3+. So there's and no rend. I get that. I'm talking baseline War Scroll here, gang. Basically, don't expect them to kill much. If they're unsupported, right? However, with some buffs, like you kind of listen to us kind of talking here. I'm kind of rehashing this real quick. They can be okay in combat. Where they excel is board control, and I think this battalion, by being able to bring 10 more back if you happen to lose them, is more emphasis on that. Their disgustingly resilient save is another emphasis on that. So, I think the secret of this army with plague bears, I should say, of this unit, is you need to get them where they need to be, and they need to be very difficult to kill thanks to their Cloud of Flies rule, which basically gives them a -1 to hit, as we were saying, versus shooting all the time. But if there are 20+ models in the unit, then they have a -1 to hit in combat and -2 to hit versus shooting. So this, combined with their disgustingly resilient, really makes them very survivable, if that's even a way to put it, especially for a battle line unit. So I think that plague bears are going to become the new go-to unit. And I think Blight Kings are going to be moved into more of that heavy hitter type of auxiliary type of piece in the upcoming Maggotkin or Nurgle or whatever they're going to be called in 3.0. But I think right now, if you're a Nurgle player, you'd be remiss to not get your hands on a bunch of plague bears.
Well, one thing in some of the games, a lot of my recent games, as I've been noticing, is that having a -1 rend is kind of trumped by having 80 attacks. I mean, the more dice you throw in, the more damage you can do.
It's law of averages.
And it is. Yeah, it's a law of averages. And sometimes, having that -1 is great when you're fighting something that's sitting on a 4+, 3+, 4+ armor. But when you're still throwing 80 dice at a 3+ monster, that monster's going to die.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming amounts of attacks. And since you're only spending, maybe 400 points or for this whole battalion or whatever, having that amount of attacks coming through, that's crazy.
Well, trust me, man. Trust me, as a Nobbler player, I know that.
I'll give up the -1 rend for having 80 attacks coming off a unit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Randy, what are your thoughts on the plague bears, man?
Yeah, I just glad they got some love, and like I said, I'm putting them all mine on 32s because they did get upgraded. From those 25 squares. Yeah.
I kind of want to throw a little bit of nostalgia back. While you guys were talking, I was reading here on the good old Taliban and Nurgle. And it's funny, and don't get me wrong, I think this Invidian Plague Host is a good battalion. It's a nice gesture on the part of Games Workshop. When I say nice gesture, what I mean by that is I think it's a good peek behind the curtain of what's coming up for Nurgle. But I got to tell you, even sitting at this old book, 2018, where it says now, I don't think that it really lives up to what the Taliban is. I mean, even if we were to look at, in comparison, I think the Taliban might slightly edge this battalion out, which I'm actually, pretty proud to say for the Nurgle army, because this battalion, I think, is I'm talking about the Taliban here, kind of encompasses everything that the Invidian Plague Host already brings in, but I think the only thing that it doesn't do is that you're not bringing back models. But I think the droning masses and the disease pestilence personified and things that are found in the Taliban, I think are maybe edge it out a little bit, which is kind of cool to be able to say because an older book. But again, to kind of wrap up the talk on the Invidian Plague Host, I think it's a good promissory note from Games Workshop that something good is about to happen for Nurgle. Right. And here's the thing: and I think if you find this battalion, useful, go ahead and try it. So I'm not knocking it at all, But I mean, I think Taliban is pretty much the way to go. I mean, Randy, you played against it quite a bit. What do you think, Taliban?
Yeah, so like he buffs everything across the board, which is nice. You know, if you do mix some mortals in and some other stuff,
right,
it is slightly better. So
well, here's where I'm thinking, and while you guys were talking, I was thinking about what I said earlier about the Thricefold. And then thinking about Taliban and kind of looking at what Plague Bears. And let me just throw this out there for some of your more seasoned Nurgle players. Here's my thought right now. I think if you field this battalion, I'm talking about the Taliban and Nurgle, with Thricefold, 2 command points, Endless Gift, the Wither Stave, might be something fun for a fun to competitive style game. That might actually get you out there. I mean, when you talk about the Endless Gift, what this is here in the Maggotkin book is in the battle shock phase, you roll a dice for every wound suffered by the Great Unclean One for that turn, and on a 4+, you're going to heal that wound. So now all of a sudden that big bloated bastard is sticking around. And I would put this on my Bell Blade Great Unclean One to keep my best spellcaster and movement buffer alive, and to mitigate the damage taken from the Putrid Offering ability, which I'm sure I would be spamming to make sure all of my Plague Wind and spell portals are successful. But the Wither Stave, that's an auto take, I think, in any Nurgle army. It should be really the first artifact, in my opinion, taken in any Nurgle list. I mean, this thing is enemy units that are going to be within 12 inches, I believe 12 inches of the bearer. They're going to reroll 6s to hit. So easily one of their best artifacts as far as in the entire Nurgle book. Maybe the best in the game, quite possibly. I think if you look all in,
just because it cancels a lot of those exploding 6s abilities too. So that's
you're right, it does.
Yeah, it's going to be hell on this Slanesh army, but I think it would probably protect all 3 Great Unclean Ones from melee attacks since they need to stick so close in that Thricefold battalion to get their bonuses. So it also protects enemy abilities that activate on a hit roll of a 6, like you were saying, the exploding 6s, Randy. So, and I know those are few and far between, but if you can block those things out, that's a big deal. So, this is almost certainly going to be, if the artifact remains in the army moving forward, it's going to be definitely an auto take for me at that point too, for sure. So. But gang, what do you guys? What are your thoughts, man, on what we talked about here so far with the Plague Bears and the demons and the Great Unclean Ones and
bread and butter units, great units to have. I mean, and that box set that came from this battalion is for the money is well worth it.
Yeah,
I mean it's a great starter jump. You're getting the 22 models in there. That's the 2 10-man units and the 2 heroes. It's $90, and you pair that with the other demon box, starter collecting box that's out there, and I think you've got something like 1,000 or 1,200 points,
right?
Which is a great jump for less than it would cost you to build, it piecemeal, so to speak.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, well, I got to tell you, man, a lot more good stuff coming up with the Maggotkin and Nurgle in general. Mm-hmm. Hey gang, I wanted to take a break in today's show to introduce one of our sponsors and a great store for all of your hobby needs. That's GameStorm Gaming in Lamont, Illinois. Open 7 days a week, 12 to 12.
GameStorm Gaming has got you covered for all of your hobby and gaming needs. They got Magic the Gathering, War Machine, X-Wing, Game of Thrones, Force of Will card game, PC gaming and repair, Warhammer 40K, and Age of Sigmar, and a ton more. Grab paints, brushes, cases, dice, and a lot more at GameStorm Gaming in Lamont, Illinois. Stop in and see John and the gang there at GameStorm Gaming, located at 1243 State Street, Lamont, Illinois, or check them out on their website at GameStormGaming.com. Again, that's www.GameStormGaming.com. They also stay open past midnight for special cases and events. So get over there and get your nerd on with GameStorm Gaming, 1243 State Street, Lamont, Illinois, 630-243-9330. Again, that's GameStorm Gaming, 1243 State Street, Lamont, Illinois. GameStorm Gaming is a proud sponsor of Grimdark Live. We hope to see you there. Hey, you Grimdark goons, thank you so much for joining us on the show. But hey, if you're new to the Grimdark Live experience, please don't forget to subscribe, follow, and like our show. This way you'll always know when it's time for Grimdark Live. And if you're a returning listener, thanks for being back. We love all you dice-chucking, glue-sniffing gamer goons. Also, please recommend us to your friends, as Grimdark Live is a great show to get your nerd on every week. And if you like some after-ear action, give our podcast a listen after the live show. The podcast is typically published a couple of days after the live show. The link to the podcast is in the show notes below. And if you're already listening to our podcast, you rock, man. And if that ain't enough for you, check out our website at www.grimdarklive.com. Again, that's grimdarklive.com. All right, now let's get back to the show. Beasts of Nurgle, man. We're going to start talking about them. We kind of jumped to the next portion of the Nurgle topic and forgot about the Beasts of Nurgle. Dustin, talk to us, man. We got some new stuff with the Beasties of Nurgle.
Yeah, these were the third unit of the book for Techless book that got a War Scroll update.
Yep.
And their points have fluctuated a couple times now. I think they dropped to 70 points per model from 100. Then they went back up to 100. Now they're up to 120 a piece now,
yeah,
something like that.
They've been bouncing around. Randy, what are they now? 120?
120, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's kind of costly for what they are, but they are a 5-inch move, 8 wound model with a 5 and 5 save. But the thing that makes them kind of disgusting is their abilities, and it's this attention seeker, which is literally giving them the ability to retreat and count as flying for a retreat, and still have the ability to charge later on in that turn. So you get them stuck in, you retreat, and then you charge back in. But that leads into their acid trails, which as they retreat, they leave a 3-inch acid trail behind them, which does a die 3 mortal wounds on a 4+, and then they charge back in and hit you with their battering ram ability, which is another D3 on a 2+.
But here's what's great about them: they can pass through. They can pass across other models in the same manner as a model that can fly when they make this when they do this attention seeker type of a move. So 120 points is a deal for what these things can do. These things, you could literally. Here's what's hysterical: are you telling me you could literally snipe characters with these things?
Yes. You can.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is they are technically they are Nurgle beasts or demon beasts, Nurgle demons. So they do actually also benefit from the singing capabilities of Mr. Sloppity and the abilities of the other guy. So you put these guys.
Slimex?
Oh yeah.
The gardener. Yeah.
So
he buffs them as well.
So you stick these guys, next to your battalion, and you use them as literally giant plague torpedoes that you're firing at heroes.
Yeah. Well, what's great about...
So a list that I've always wanted to make is when Blight Wars came out, you had the character on the giant snail or whatever.
Yeah, Horticulus Slimex.
Yeah. He can plant one tree, which means if they're close enough to the tree, they get to run in charge, and they have a Beast of Nurgle bubble that allows them to reroll to wound.
Well, here's and don't forget about Horticulus Slimex's ability, which is the Beast Handler, which he can reroll failed charge rolls and hit rolls for one friendly Beast of Nurgle unit while they're within 7 inches of this guy. So you take that coupled with the Attention Seeker with exactly what you said, Randy. These guys are well worth 120 points.
I was working on a casual list of 6 Beasts of Nurgle for 600 points. or 600 plus 20 more.
They're literally nuclear plague torpedoes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just one thing that I think, again, when we talk about kind of a sneak behind the peek behind the curtain of what GW is going to be giving us for upcoming Nurgle, and let's not be too quick to forget, when Nurgle first came out in 2018, the Maggotkin, I mean, did they or did they not turn the entire gaming world on their ear? I mean, nobody knew what the hell to do with that army. And, so I think they were the first ones to really show up. And, I mean, obviously Legion of Nagash had their gravestones, and they had that. So I guess a lot of people say that was, I think what people say is that was one of the first, tabletop terrain features. But to me, in my mind, the Fessalent Gnarlmaw was the first terrain feature that they had. But, yeah, so that's right what we know as far as baseline Nurgle Maggotkin. But, here's the thing. We also know that Nurgle finds friends, outside of the battle tome to plague with. So, I think that when we look at the things that you're able to connect to Nurgle, if that's the way to put that, I think there's another benefit in building this army as it stands right now. And so let's just take, for instance, the Chaos supplement, the Wrath of the Everchosen.
Right.
So Nurgle has gained, 4 new sub-factions to work with. One is centered around Blight Kings, one for the Pustule Blight Lords, and the other 2 are for demons. And none of them are, I would say, an auto-include. So, if you like the command traits and the relics from the battle tome, there's really no reason to do that. But at least you have a few more options available to you when you're building. And I'll tell you why I kind of want to tie this together, because I think Slaves of Darkness battle tome and the Plague Touch Warband Battalion is really the way to go if you're looking to kind of incorporate things a little bit. I mean, this battalion can be used in either Slaves of Darkness or Nurgle alliances, which makes it pretty versatile battalion. Which of the recent success of the non-Zeech Chaos armies has really been thanks to this battalion in the Slaves of Darkness subfaction. The Knights of the Empty Throne.
Right. So
I think that Nurgle really found an enrichment point in that Slaves of Darkness book. I mean, the faction places a particular focus on the Varangard, of course. I'm talking about the Empty Throne one here for a second, making them heroes and occupying the leader battlefield role, and grants them some unique command traits and relics. So while you wouldn't be using the Maggotkin Allegiance or the book if you went this route, you would be playing a Nurgle army. And it really just depends on your definition of how Nurgle you want to be and how you want to build that. But, Nurgle offers these Slaves of Darkness-esque armies probably more of a buff than I would like to, in my opinion, than any of the other Chaos Gods do. So what I want to throw out there, guys, I want to get your opinion on this, is the Slaves of Darkness itself. So here's the thing. And Justin, Randy, you guys are students of the game. You guys understand what I'm about to say, but I want to hear your point of view on this. Let's stick with Slaves of Darkness here real quick. So if you give them the Nurgle Mark of Chaos, right, they gain the Nurgle keyword and can be valid in a Nurgle list. Units worth looking at as far as that I think would be good to include in this, that I've seen and actually kind of toyed around with great success. Randy, you brought up the Marauders earlier, but I would also say the Varangard, Warriors of Chaos, Sorcerer Lords, Chaos Lord on foot, and maybe the Karkadrak Lord. I can never pronounce that right. Karkadrak, right? Yeah. I think if you're even more comfortable breaking away from the Maggotkin book, you can even go down the Plague Touch Warband in the new Morathi supplement. I think a couple of shows ago, Justin, you and I were kind of talking about that, but you can go down the new Morathi supplement for Slaves of Darkness. Play as Idolaters, and mark your Chariot Lord as Nurgle, and then take a lot of Warcry Warband units. You get there with Untamed Beasts, Iron Golems, and whatever the hell else, the Splinter Fang, or the Splintered Fang units, all those kind of guys. But guys, what do you think about that when we talk about Slaves of Darkness, how we can incorporate that into Nurgle, and what are some things that you guys have seen or maybe done?
I would have to say probably what you were talking about with the Marauders and things of that, and putting the Mark of Nurgle on them and just using them as chaff. Just
go die.
Yeah, basically, using them as springboards for the rest of the army. Because, don't get me wrong, Slaves of Darkness, they're in their own special place. But when you start combining them with other things, they are the chaff that needs to be sacrificed.
Yeah,
that's just the way they are. I mean, my personal opinion, I'd rather see these newer things used more towards the Wrath of the Everchosen and the all. You pick a demon from any demon list or any demon army you want, combine it down, and that includes the Skaven demons. That's where I would see more of this shining. Taking the Iridian Plague Host in that list.
Oh, you're going back to that one. Okay, so you're incorporating. You're talking about incorporating that with the Wrath of the Everchosen book.
Wrath of the Everchosen, yeah, the one that allows you to take demons, basically any demon from across all the chaos.
Yeah, the ones that allow to take demons in that are the Munificent Wanderers, the Drowning Guard. Yeah, I think those are the two that allow you to take pure demons. So you'd probably take it with the Wanderers.
Right, I would probably go with the Wanderers. That way I can incorporate Skaven demons into my list and things of that matter. And then I'm crossing 3 books at that point.
Yeah.
My options get even bigger.
Well, that's the beauty about Nurgle. I mean, Randy, what do you think, man?
Yeah, like I said, good start is the 40 Marauders. So a Sorcerer Lord allows them like a target, Slays of Darkness units to reroll hits and wounds, which is huge for large numbers of like large units with tons of attacks. Yeah, and then the Lord Karkadrak is is great too for buffing.
At that point, we're getting
Chaos Knights too. Yeah.
We're getting to that same thing where it's here you go, 80 attacks coming off of a unit, multiple units. Hey, I got 5 units on the table that do 80 attacks per unit. Have fun dealing with it.
Exactly, and that's just the thing. That's just the thing about it. I mean, when you talk about the Slaves of Darkness, I really think there's a lot of depth there because, and you know what it is, guys? It's the little innate things that you're able to do with, say the Plague-Touched battalion, the Plague-Touched Warband. Battalion.
Right.
And with the Slaves of Darkness, like for instance, if your whole army is marked in Nurgle, right, your opponent will take mortal wounds for having the audacity to try to punch you in the face in the combat. I mean, that's pretty great. Definitely a good time. I mean, that's something that battalion offers you right out of the Slaves of Darkness book.
Right.
And if you're really fancy, I'm going to kind of throw this one out there. Maybe you take Arcan. Maybe you take the Everchosen himself. I mean, you can probably, you can't go wrong with having one as maybe a fallback unit, just in case type thing. Since he works in just about all mono god chaos armies.
Right.
So and he's good at sporting each one of the keywords. So in addition to say Slaves of Darkness, you can kind of throw him in there. I guess he is Slaves of Darkness, but you can kind of throw him in there as well. But I think there's a lot of depth when you're incorporating Nurgle, and I think Slaves of Darkness just become better under Nurgle, better than Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch. I really, really do, because they've done it for my Beastie Boys, which I'll bring up here in a minute. But I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, on the note of like other gods or whatever, I think Nurgle is one of the best to buff Slaves of Darkness. And Slaanesh was a close second or whatever, but when the new book came out, they did change a bunch of their rules to Hedonites of Slaanesh only or whatever. So that really nerfed the crossover compatibility of slaves for them. Well, so I think Nurgle is the new home for them. So.
Well, and Tzeentch is kind of the same way in their regards. I mean, even looking at Khorne, they've got the same regards as well. They're all kind of locked in their own faction, and their keywords kind of lock them down to where incorporating mortals makes it a little tricky. Nurgle, being that they're a 2018 book and don't have those limitations of keywords right yet, they got that broad base that they can just sit there and be like, hey, I just can spread my plagues with love everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I just kind of had a weird thought, kind of listening to you guys talk about it, and I think, Justin, you just brought up the whole Khorne thing, and I know I'm taking a left turn at Albuquerque here, but
it almost needs to be said though.
But here's a weird thought. What about taking Khorne skull cannons? Now, think about this. To give the Nurgle units, now obviously the Khorne demons on the skull cannons are not going to take the Nurgle keyword. I get that, but again, I'm taking a left turn at Albuquerque here, and even looking at things that you could attach to your Nurgle army that maybe aren't going to get the Nurgle keyword. Take Khorne skull cannons. This could give Nurgle some shooting, both in the shooting phase and even in the combat phase. If say the skull cannons get stuck in an unfortunate type of position, or you need them to kind of hold up a unit. I think there might be kind of a corny way that you could even find some synergies by taking skull cannons with them. I mean, think about it though. For a Nurgle army, whose primary output is close combat. Giving yourself some range threat is not a bad option. But Randy, what were you going to say?
I've tried the 3 Soul Grinder list. It didn't really have too much of a good outcome. But that said, I'm really excited for the Belcor book coming out because he is a mixed demon, faction or whatever. Like one of my favorite lists is a whole bunch of corn dogs with a bunch of flamers of Tzeentch or whatever, and that was one of my go-to armies from back in the day.
Yeah,
well, we kind of already see that with the Wrath of the Everchosen all demon list.
I do enjoy that. Yeah,
multi-demon. I mean, you make your main body Nurgle, and then you take skull cannons, and you take exalted flamers of Tzeentch with little baby flamers running around. And next thing you know, you got plagues burning in all areas.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about that is Disgusting Resilient didn't really work with the free after save with them,
Yeah,
but
yeah, and I gotta be careful with my Lieutenant Albuquerque thoughts here because Housey 1000 did say those skull cannons are so bad, and dude, they are bad. You know what it was? I think I had like a brain blip or something like that, and I just went, let's talk about skull cannons. You want to know? Probably because nobody brings up skull cannons. I bet you're going to go another month and watch 10 other shows, and no one's going to talk about skull cannons. Go ahead, Randy. Sorry.
Those were great back when they were actually cannons in the old edition.
They were actually
OP, but now, cannons don't get it done anymore.
Soul grinders, exactly.
Cannons in general don't get it done unless they're able to hit you on 2s.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I'll tell you, something else I want to bring up, and I'm okay, guys. You got to bear with me because second to my love of my Nabos here is my Beastie Boys. So I'm going to talk about probably, in my opinion, in my humble, egotistical, warped opinion,
it belongs in the scrap, not launching scrap in the scrap.
Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, Randy's been drinking. Don't listen to him anymore. He's out there just, Randy was asking me earlier how much vodka did you put in your scrambled eggs. Okay, let's get back to this real quick. So Beasts of Chaos, I want to talk about this one. And folks, I love my Beastie Boys, man. I love them. And what I like to use in my Beasts of Chaos is the Maggotkin Allegiance. To use the Nurgle magic that I can apply to my Beasts of Chaos using the Pestilent Throng Beasts of Chaos Battalion right out of their book. And don't get me wrong, I like the Plague Touched. This is both a Nurgle and a Beastman battalion, so it's interchangeable. The Beasts of Chaos have been, I guess, struggling for a little while, but there are a few reasons I've actually played this with my Beastie Boys. So here's what I want to throw out there. The Nurgle wizards that we have access to are not particularly reliable. I just want to throw that out there. I mean like outside of your Great Unclean One and stuff. I think that especially in the current haves and have-nots, as far as meta of Magic is what I mean. Dominance, where unfortunately the Maggotkin definitely fall into the have-nots category. I think for the most part we kind of suffer a little bit on the casting of 7 and all that kind of stuff. I think their saving grace does come when using the spells to buff units, and Beasts of Chaos in particular. And this is kind of where I'm taking the roundabout to kind of explain why I'm saying the Beasts of Chaos are probably a great synergy piece or an army piece with Nurgle. So Beasts of Chaos, let's look at it this way, are already really fast. So they're curing one thing that Nurgle doesn't have, is speed. And many of them, when I talk about Beasts of Chaos, they have the built-in run and charge rules, so that's removing the need for the Pestilent Gnarlmaw to really be anywhere in the middle of the board. By utilizing, say, a ton of other speed buffs available to the Beasts of Chaos, your have-not wizards can really sit outside dispel range of your opponent's wizards and buff the Beasts of Chaos, and then you can launch them all the way across the table, like little beastman-shaped machine guns, I guess, and that's where you're able to actually do that, and that's why I really like incorporating the Beastmen with the Nurgle battalions. I mean, so if you think about it this way, the primary spells that I would recommend for this are Blades of Putrefaction, Fleshy Abundance. Blades are going to give you a mortal wound on a 6+ to hit, and unlike some other units that don't benefit from that, you put that on some Bestigors, Ungor Raiders, and some Senegors, all come with built-in +1s to hit and rerolls to hit, and a metric ton of attacks. Senegors can notably have at least 6 attacks a model with built-in +1 to hit, and with a movement value of almost 30 inches. So again, I want to go back to why I think Beasts of Chaos are probably the best fit for a Nurgle. But and this is 30 inches before charging with any other +1 to pile-ins. Should they make it, of course. and should they make it. This can make for some pretty nasty combinations. I mean, I think I've actually played this particular army that I'm talking about against both of you guys.
Yeah, you have.
Yep.
You have.
I think at times I've thrown in my beloved Jabberslices, Hansel, Gretel, and Augustus. Those beautiful little babies.
Which don't hit for shit, but hey.
Hey, you know what? You watch your mouth, Justin. Damn it! We're trying to have a show here. You can't insult the Jabberslices like that. Damn it!
I'm playing with you.
No, I know. The funny thing is but
they fall under that monster curse. That's the problem.
Yeah, they do. And they're I don't think I've made a tail attack in 5 years. But the problem that I've run into with the Beast of Chaos, tied in with Nurgle, with this specific list, I guess I should say, is that the casting is far too unreliable, and we still fall into that too. And if you don't get it off, they're most likely going to be, again, a lot of pillow fisting, that's going to be happening there with 3+ and 4+ armors. So if that's who they're fighting against. So I think a lot of it, could be kind of a push in the middle if you're not careful. But I think all in, pound for pound, I think Beasts of Chaos probably do the best when incorporated with Nurgle. At least in my experience. My opinion.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems that Nurgle faces right now is if they don't get their buffs or their synergies in place, that's where they're hitting that wall.
Yeah.
But that can be said for almost any army out there, barring some of the newer ones that have hit the tables. I mean, I'm not going to Lumineth or that they don't count towards that.
No. But it's funny. I'm looking on here and Housey 1000. He brings up. He said, but are they bringing more to a hammer than plague monks? Okay, now you made me bring up the Skaven. Okay, yep. Let's talk about this here. Skaven. This is a weird one since plague monks had their war scroll changed. It's something we've seen far less often. We haven't really seen a lot of plague monks, and I guess you're still able to bring any clan pestilence Skaven units because they share the Nurgle keyword. I get that.
Right.
My favorite trick for this allegiance loophole is taking a Verminlord Corruptor and a Warp Lightning Vortex. Since they're still a Skaven wizard and they can cast Vortex, and who the hell doesn't like casting the Warp Lightning Vortex besides Karajan Overlords? Maybe, I don't know. But I really think that Skaven are kind of in a weird spot. And what's funny? If I had to rank the three of them, if I had to take, Beasts of Chaos and probably in first place, Slaves of Darkness in second place, and Skaven in third place as far as ability to really contend well under a Nurgle keyword. I mean, do you guys agree with that, or am I off on that? That's my opinion.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I've got that right, but they still have access to the Gnarlhall bomb and things of that manner when they're taken that way, right? So they can open up that Gnarlhole anywhere on the table.
Correct.
And jump through it. So yeah, I mean, if they got the Nurgle keyword and they can do all that stuff, then yeah, I'd put them on that ranking without a problem. Okay. I mean, that's just a teleporting unit.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
I don't know. I don't play Skaven either. That's unfortunately one of the other armies I don't really dabble into readily yet. So I don't know a whole lot about them.
Last time I went through Sean's list or whatever, it was when before that big siege or whatever, and that was before the War Scroll change. So I don't really know too much of the newer stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, and finally for some of you perverts out there, Slanesh, Glutos from the new Slanesh book is worth considering for his bubble of -1 to hit on an army, but that can put them to probably 2s by or -3, I guess, on its own. And then make them reroll 6s to hit with the Wither Stave relic, so making you almost immune to attacks in close combat for sure. So that's pretty much everything.
Can he take the Nurgle keyword though?
Well, I think Glutos. You can put Glutos in. Can he take it? No, but you can put him in the new. But what I'm saying is, for his bubble of -1 to hit on an army, okay. That's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I thought you're like, if you include him, I'm like, I don't think he can do that, but I know where you're going now. Sorry, I was a little confused there.
Right. So that's everything we have on Nurgle, guys. I mean, there's a lot, and I'm really proud and happy that that Nurgle was is really able to really kind of stand the test of time since 2018, and I still think they're a fantastic army out there. I mean, what do you guys thought? What do you guys think, man?
They're on my list of things I would love to try to build and try to play at least once in my lifetime here, just because they seem like they're fun. But they are definitely a tactician-heavy army and a general's army. There's something that once you learn them, if you got them down and you're a great tactician, you're gonna go 4-1 with them. They hold up no matter what edition they're in.
Right.
Just because their rules are solid.
Yep. I totally agree with that, man. Totally agree with that. So let's Randy, what are your thoughts, man?
I just can't wait to field my slime battering rams.
I love it, man. I love slime battering rams. All right, well, good stuff. Well, that's our little presentation on Nurgle, man. But we got the question of the day coming up, man. Let's get those answers ready.
Hey gang, I really hope you're enjoying the Grimdark Live show so far. Thanks for being with us. But before we get to the question of the day, I want to ask you to head over to grimdarklive.com to enter the Nerd Bunker by becoming a supporter of the show on Patreon. There are 6 different levels to fit the support you may be interested in, and all provide special benefits and services to our members. So please head over to grimdarklive.com and become a patron of the show. And while you're on grimdarklive.com, you should know that Grimdark Live isn't just there for entertainment. We're a full-time miniatures assembly and painting service. We have 3 different levels that we currently paint to, and we provide free quotes. So let us know if you have something you need painted, and we'll get it done for you. And if Patreon or painting isn't something you're ready to do at this time, we totally understand. And thank you for spending time with us here on Grimdark Live. So with that said, let's get to the question of the day.
Here it is, man. We are back, and we got the question of the day here on Grimdark Live. So here it is, man. We're going to throw this out there to Randy first, man, since he's a nice guy in tabletop wargaming, and he's finally back with us, man. We got him off the bar stool and got him here for the show just for this. So here it is, man. Randy, you ready?
Yep.
All right. So here it is, the question of the day. Can a player be so content with an army that they don't want to play another? There it is.
Wow, asking me first with all this stuff around me?
Yeah.
I don't know about
the guy that's got literally half a Games Workshop under one roof.
Yeah, but there is a good solid, like I said earlier, with the Belcore coming out, and like demons is my usual go-to, and lizardmen, and then if it would be old fantasy, it would be Batonians. Like I played those armies the most and kept on going back, and when I saw Belcore, I was like, oh, this is going to be fantastic because I can play the mixed demon army again. And then in the same book, they just happen to be like, oh, look, here's a shiny new lizardman for you. Yeah. So,
right.
I could just, there's armies that I just keep going back to, but, I build the other ones for hobby and have one of everything, but there's a reason why I have 8,000 points of lizardmen compared to, only less than, like I got 2K list for all the other ones. So.
That's true. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, so same question right back to you, Justin. Can a player be so content with an army that they don't want to play another?
I normally would say to answer that with a no, but unfortunately with AOS and just I can't even say unfortunately, just with the way AOS is now and some of the books are, I'd say yes. I mean, I play Cities of Sigmar as my primary. It's my go-to. It's my bread and butter army. I have 25,000 points of Cities of Sigmar floating around behind me.
Right.
And it's been the army I've played since, I met you, Pat, a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always played.
You've always played a version of the Empire, that's for sure.
The Empire in some way or form. So, yeah, I mean, you can get content with working with one army and you just expand on it. And the nice thing is with AOS is a lot of these books and a lot of these armies have ways of drawing in other factions or other models from other factions.
Right.
So you're not just stuck with, okay, I'm playing Nurgle and that's where I'm at. No, I'm playing Nurgle and I can bring in Clan Pestilence. I can bring in Slaves of Darkness. I can bring in, Forge World with their Plague Toads and whatever else you want to throw at them. It's the same thing with Cities of Sigmar. Cities of Sigmar has access to every army under the sun. I mean, especially since they keep adding new cities to us. I mean, I'm at 9 cities now, which is ridiculous.
Right.
So yeah, I love the aesthetic, and I love the idea that you can get focused on one army, but still have options to branch out.
Right. If I had asked myself that same question, can a player be so content with an army that he don't want to play any other? Nope. I got to tell you, and that's why I try to force myself between General's Handbooks to play between 1 and 2 armies, because I think that way gives me a little bit of discipline that I can that I can actually paint the army, learn the rules, do what I need to do with it. And what's funny about that is because I just said it right there, 1 or 2 armies between General's Handbooks. And that's why I think it's difficult. I think you'd have to have a real special army. I've heard people talk about their Sons of Behemoth army, their low model count, and it does a lot for them.
Right.
Steve, for instance, one of our guys in our gaming group. He probably won't play any other army, and that's fantastic for him. But I think for the most part,
unless the vampires are good.
Unless the vampires are good, which then again, so I think this is a pretty difficult thing. I mean, without this, I think we would have we wouldn't have the proverbial statement of gamer ADHD, right? So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so it looks like the closing thoughts, man. I got them this week. So let me just say this real quick. Not a big pontification on the closing thoughts, but guys, we're getting to that point where we're seeing a lot of tournaments come back and rise up, and people are making their way to make sure that this hobby survives. We've gone through, and hopefully this pandemic is over, and we're going to be getting out there and gaming. So remember that don't let something prevent you from doing what you love. Pretty soon Mother Nature is going to take all that away from you, whether it be you're going to get old, or you're going to get sick and croak or whatever. But enjoy what you have in front of you right now. Make those times, at least get down in those basements. Get out to those smaller tournaments. Be responsible, of course, but make sure you're always getting out there and rolling the dice and making good on your commitment for that leisure, right? For that time for yourself and your friends. Don't take that for granted. So, but that's it, man. That's the show, dude, and that is a wrap. So, guys, great show tonight, man, on Nurgle, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And Randy, the nice guy in Tabletop Wargaming, man, we're glad to have you back with us. But that's it, man. That's a show. That's a wrap. And all the Grimdark Goons like to thank all of our listeners for the great show. And we look forward to having you back next time. We discuss all things related to Dice, Dragons, Demons, and Dwarves in the Warhammer world. So please don't forget to join us next Tuesday at 7:30. And also, please don't forget to hit the like or subscribe button and follow our podcast. So until we meet again, roll them dice, fun and fair, and don't be a frickin' short pants. Bye.
Yep. Night, everybody.
Night.
Grimdark Live would like to thank you for slumming it through another show with us for all things dice, dragons, demons, and a dwarf in the Warhammer worlds. We'll be back again real soon, so until then, roll them dice, fun and fair, and don't be a frickin' short pants. You can get your Grimdark Live fix on our live show or catch us on our Grimdark Live podcast. Never fear, gang. There'll be more great content from Grimdark Live coming to you each and every week. So stay tuned and stay grim, all you dice-chucking, glue-sniffing gamer goons. You're all awesome.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue.
Remember to embrace the main message here on Grimdark Live, and that's a social contract we have between gamers and the commitment we have to each other in this community. We're only as good as our last game. Check us out at grimdarklive.com, and don't forget to subscribe, follow, and recommend Grimdark Live to your friends. So long, Grimdark Goons. Until next time, may the dice gods bless you and your sweaty palms. Bye.